set, where them hands, where them holes, where them throws, you know what I'm saying? Cecil.
Here, I thought I was being original, but great minds think alike. So, what I'm talking about is I'm going to react to this clip where KRS-One is talking about how Bruce Lee influenced early hip hop. I am definitely, oh, yes, he's got the book up here too. I'm going to talk about how Bruce Lee influenced me personally in hip hop after KRS-One talks about how Bruce Lee influenced hip hop. And I'm going to be reacting to that. So, let's take a look.
Laugh if you want to. This is real. Everybody in early hip hop in the Bronx was Bruce Lee. Everybody. 1973, it's very hard. First of all, Bruce Lee was not just a kung fu martial artist to the hood, to the Bronx ghetto. He was a more like a mythical hero. And the reason being is because, first of all, he knew kung fu, and that just went over well with every kid in urban areas.
I grew up in the sticks, the boondocks, the country, Southern Maryland. Come on, Bruce Lee. Everybody loved Bruce Lee once we saw those kung fu kicks and flicks.
And he just did it like that. Bruce Lee also, if you look at his movies, there's one called Enter the Dragon, 1973. And at the beginning of Enter the Dragon, they have a golden issue series that they put out right now. But at the beginning of Enter the Dragon, there's a dialogue between Bruce Lee and a Shaolin monk, a teacher, actually, a priest. And Bruce Lee's getting ready to leave the Shaolin temple. And he's asking him things like, you know, what is the greatest crime? And to not be true to yourself. And well, what is the punishment of a traitor? Death. What is the, and he goes on and on with this. They cut that out of the movie. But in the hood, we sense that this is what Bruce Lee was all about. Discipline, having the skills to break anybody down, but we love this discipline. And this is like part of hip hop that people don't remember. Wu-Tang Clan keeps this tradition alive.
Just interrupting, just so it's not just a playback. But yes, not just the hood, also in the wood. And if you didn't know, because you didn't read RZA's book that I forgot the name of, that I did read, RZA, to me, who is the foundation of the Wu-Tang, if not the founder of the Wu-Tang Clan, the one in Harlem, not the one in China or Europe. Wu-Tang brings the martial arts and hip hop together. Wu-Tang Clan definitely definitely brings in the fighting spirit of the martial arts in together. And it wasn't just in the hood, it was also in the wood. I'm going to keep saying that. We all felt it. We all felt that from Bruce Lee.
Today, why are they so into Shaolin? Why are they so in? Because this was the first thing we were in hip hop. This was the beginning of it. What Wu-Tang and them are doing is what Kool Herc was doing in '73. They just doing it in their way, Long Island style, you know, and so on. But I need to say that for you to understand the cultural significance of how our culture came to be. Bruce Lee and his attitude, his character, is what hip hop was trying to mimic in 1973. He had Bruce Kelly with him. Young black kids in the hood, we never seen no black dude with an afro doing karate, beating up the police on the TV.
We never saw that in the wood either.
We was like, wow, Bruce Lee, wow, look. And this went over well with us. We used to dress like him, talk like him, beat each other up like him.
Yes, we did. Now I was telling my students today, have you ever heard of slap boxing? I like asking kids that now because it seems like the more and more I ask it as the years go on, the less and less kids I find have heard of slap boxing. Children, if you're watching this, Don't try to discover slap boxing on your own. Ask a parent about it. Have a parent look into it. Because it's supposed to be play fighting, but if anybody who ever did slap boxing knows, it starts off as play when it's unsupervised, and then it can escalate.
I mentioned this, keep this in mind, okay? This is Cool Herc Seller. This is 73. This is the Vietnam War.
I was born in 70. When I first heard what I knew was hip hop, I don't think it was until 76, 77, and 78. So I'm a little bit younger than KRS-One. The KRS-One group, I was their little brother or sister that said, "Can I go too?" And they're like, "Get out of here, you too young." So then I go and sneak and listen to the albums when they were out of the house and get in trouble for touching their stuff when they weren't there.
Also, this is heroin everywhere. Everywhere. It's heroin everywhere. Planted there by the FBI, by the way. We didn't know it then, but now we know the counterintelligence program and all of that, and J. Edgar Hoover and all of that. Now we know who put the drugs in the community, but then nobody knew. It was just everywhere. And hip hop was an escape.
Now, we didn't have that down, at least in the part of Wood where I was. But we heard of it, and I saw some stuff on TV. That was like, oh, if you go in the city, they're on the heroin. That's the city. It was like, we're looking at that like, oh, man, that's the city people doing that. But it's not like they didn't have substance abuse in anywhere where there's people. You know, bootleg moonshine. I'll say various plants. I'll just leave it at that. Now, I wanted to do a separate video on this, but let me make this part real quick. So, where Bruce Lee influenced me for hip hop is two areas. One, when I was actively rapping, and a friend of mine let me watch the Bruce Lee movies. Like, you used to do martial arts, because at that time, this was I used to. I hadn't gotten back to it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it for exercise. And, you know, I want to get back into it. I always stretched, though, but I didn't necessarily always practice my techniques, but I did always stretch. It's like, you should listen to it. And so I was watching a movie, and when Bruce started talking about people being trapped in their styles and classical mess and being trapped in forms, that's how I felt a lot of MCs were with their rapping. If they were trapped in being hardcore, or trapped in being a gangster, or trapped in being conscious, trapped in their little block or box, instead of just being a what I call at the time rapper, just being a rapper. And then I got corrected on that. I think it was a couple of years later when I met, I think he said he was Grandmaster Melly Mel's grandson. And he took the time, I took the sunning, if you could call it that. I took the correction because I felt like if this dude feels this passionately about what he's telling me, it's got to be worth something. And he basically, in a nutshell, said, don't try to be a rapper, be an MC. Totally study the craft. Be a storyteller. Be somebody who can move the crowd, not just battle and be up in your ego. So I definitely think that in the martial arts, we won't be MCs. Well, maybe we could be MCs. MC, martial creators. Instead of just martial artists, martial creators, martial constructors. Some other people have also said martial scientists. One thing also I used to do in terms of Bruce Lee, I got a copy of his book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. If you don't have it, you got to get it. You got to get The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. You got to get Taekwondo by General Choi Hung Hee. You got to get Kodokan Judo by Jigoro Kano. And now I've started reading it. You've got to get the Big Thick Hapkido book by Tedeschi. If I remember the guy's full name, I'll put it below this video. You got to get that too. Those I think are now must-haves, in addition to George Dummon books and Art Mason books. I'm getting off topic. But anyway, I used to draw, like I would photocopy Bruce Lee's books and pictures of him when he's doing poses, and I would draw a microphone in the hand and watch it. Or I put that up on my cubicle, pictures of Bruce from the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, different poses and drawings that he had. And on stage, I used to try to gesture like Bruce Lee. Sometimes I try to move like Bruce Lee. And I really worked on my flexibility more and more so I could get down in the split sometimes on stage and try to be like Bruce Lee. I started thinking about when I'm rhyming and I'm doing my delivery or my stage presence, it's like it's a fight. It's like I'm battling, but I'm not battling the crowd. I'm really was battling my own nervousness, my own negativity, my own, I'm scared. I don't really want to be up here, but taking that energy and try to transform it to express myself. Because Bruce Lee talked about not just fighting, but expression, expressing yourself with the martial arts. How can you express yourself in the martial art? Not just necessarily beating this other person up. How does a fight come alive? Because I felt like Bruce said that the fight is a living thing. I felt like the stage performance is a living thing. There's you, there's the crowd, and then there's the performance itself. It takes on a life of its own. And now, when I'm teaching, being able to rap on stage, even though I didn't make millions of dollars as a rapper, I really wish I did, but I didn't. But being able to do that in front of a crowd, when I got to the point in my martial arts training where I had one of these on and then I had to start teaching people, made it a lot easier to get in front of a crowd. When I'm teaching, I'm really emceeing. We used to have a saying back in the day of each one teach one. I am each one and teaching one in the martial arts. Definitely. And this is one thing I'm going to say, and I will close. I felt like that there's always been an element missing in hip hop. KRS once said the four elements of hip hop are MCing, DJing, breaking, and graffiti writing, drawing, basically. But I've always felt like there should be a fifth element. And that fifth element in hip hop should be the martial arts. So, in a sense, the fifth element has always been there. If even KRS-One, who dubs himself as a teacher, I consider him to be a teacher in hip hop, the teacher. Well, I'll call myself a student. The student humbly submits to the teacher and to the elders of hip hop
accept.